In a world of constant change, one thing is the same: our commitment to help you serve your customers. Let's redefine customer experience together. Join us and be amazing every time.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? First of all, thanks for having me, and I'm tempted to use this trampoline, but they told me that is of too much risk. I'm not an accountant and I'm not in legal, but a tough act to follow for sure. But first of all, Reg, thanks to have me in Yogyakarta today, because it's not about me, it's not actually about what we are doing as SAP, it is about our collaboration. And that's why I'm so pleased to be back at SAPHILA after some time. And I love actually how you put it out there with Aspire, because SAP and Aspire, if you put the letters in the right sequence. But it's also about you interacting with us. And if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, we need to link our brains together. That's what it is about. It is about that I learn from you as you learn from what we learn in other places. We just heard about the global north. I have a global role, but I know where I am, and I know where the differences are. And I only know that because the customers here in this room and the partners in this room have been interacting with us. And thanks again to collaboration with AFSAC, we have established it even past the 4 years, where it's very hard to connect. So in my role, I have the ultimate pleasure, which actually changed in January, because before that 7 years I spent in S4. S4HANA has a lot of Sven in S4. And I will share a little bit about that. And my good friend Uwe Grigoleit, who's going to talk tomorrow, we're going to span where we think the companies are that run 74% of the worldwide GDP. That was a marketing stat, for the records. But in my role now, looking at 25 industries, there are a couple of trends that I will like to allude to, and I think that is important to share to spark that discussion. Not only to share that this is what we see and this is what you need to do, because we just learned there's actually so much we all need to learn together. And the world is, of course, different. It was always different. The question is about speed. The question is about transforming every day. And when we talk about digital transformation, we all, at all ends of this room and here in the middle center, we need to understand it's a journey. It's not a destination. And that's what I would love to share a little bit with you. And of course, we'll have the next 2 days, hopefully ample time, to connect our brains. Now, I happen to believe at SAP, and together with the ecosystem and the customers, we do know industries. As a matter of fact, I believe the industries you work in defines your core business. And it is plural, because not longer in just one industry, and we'll come to that in a second. But it is important that your core business is derived by the needs you see out there in the market. And it's our job to bring that together, to codify it maybe in solutions, not only in products, in solutions that work together from SAP and the ecosystem to derive that value. So we want, with the 50 years of experience, help to make you future-proof. And we just learned that's a constant task we are in together. We need to understand those industries, but it's also clear together, and as SAP, we do know industries. And that is, on the vertical edge, very often a differentiator. So let's capitalize on that. But let's also share what is going out there, what is going on regionally, but we are connected. What happens here in South Africa doesn't stay in South Africa. What happens in Africa as a continent doesn't stay there. We are connected. And sometimes we're going to learn that in some examples I've brought in industries, you can leapfrog certain experiences that others have made. As well with technology. But technology is a means to an outcome. And the outcome that I see is, how can we help you to be more future ready? Now, if we look at that, we all operate in those uncertainties we just heard about. And I think that deep expertise that we have, the idea of navigating those trends, we don't invent them at Friday 5 p.m. And even if my title says marketing, I still do work at Friday 5 p.m. But I do work a little bit with the brain and connecting with people around the globe, because 5 p.m. my world is not the 5 p.m. in the other world. That doesn't mean it's about the amount. It's about the preciseness. It's about the question, how can we turn those ideas and those unexpected into opportunities in each of those trends that are depicted down here? The difference between growing a company and growing a company at the vertical edge of the industry, that's the net we need to understand together first. And it's not me here on stage, with a pleasure to present a lot that's come from thousands interactions of customers, partners, and the ecosystem. It is about how to understand that speed of innovation we can cope with. Let me get it right out of bed. Everyone talks about cloud. Now, there are many definitions. Some people thinking if they don't have it on their computer under the drawer, but in a data center, they're already cloud. When I talk today about cloud, it's about the highest degree possible of standardization, which we can achieve by using solutions where others already have put best practice into. That was always my mantra, and sorry that my intro took so long at the beginning. I've seen a couple of things, and I'm trying to bring that together, and again, it will work in this whole time, I'm pretty sure in this collaboration, that I'm going to fly back motivated about your thoughts, about your ideas you have. And the best thing that I could come up with is a term which is called industry cloud. The business in an industry who can then serve for an acceleration of the innovation. One of my first projects at SAP was the enhancement packages in ECC. I'm not going to do a show of hands, but if you have a problem with that, blame me. The idea, nevertheless, was an innovation cycle which spanned 5 years to bring that down to 1 year. And we were so tremendously proud. But technology has locked us in faster than we could think, that all the innovation that we build, you couldn't even consume. And if that has been the problem in the past, what we did learn for the future, now as it even needs to be faster. And I happen to believe if we standardize a good portion of our business, if we innovate on that vertical edge, we actually going to be ready for that journey of digital transformation. It's never going to end. Now that said, there's also some trends we need to look into. And one trend is what we call industry convergence. Has been out there before. But industry convergence is something which I personally looking more and more into it, because companies realize they're not in one industry. Industry convergence, as a matter of fact, is reshaping every industry. And those blurring lines between the value chains that we are part of, we better be aware, because that pace is accelerating. And it's not a futuristic trend. It's a scenario where different industries come together. At Sapphire, we even had it as a showcase. It was called Farm to Consume. And if you haven't been there, there was very nice vegan ice cream at the end. And maybe you're not vegan, there's also other ice cream. But the question was, from agriculture all the way to production, to supply chain, how it comes then to the consumer consuming it. That farm to consume scenario, please look at it. Because if you haven't been at Sapphire, of course we have a digital representation of that, because many discussions spark when you think across industries. There's also others, like here in that example I just mentioned, from agribusiness to manufacturing, to supplier, to distribution, to retail. There's one more, and I want to show it a little bit, and it's not too futuristic. I think it's still at the cutting edge what you can do, but very clearly it's all proven technology from us and the ecosystem already in play. So let's look at the video about industry convergence in energy and retail.
Today, more than ever, we see industries such as retail and energy and automotive converging on trends such as e-mobility. Many industries see the value in redefining their business models, resulting in new growth opportunities. The following clip shows an example of how e-mobility is venturing into retail. Here, you can see Sarah. Sarah is on her way home from a customer meeting. Here we see that the habits of traveling change due to e-mobility. While she enters the destination in the navigation system, the assistant recommends that she could charge her car at a charge point next to a retail store that she often uses. As Sarah is a registered loyalty user and her data is stored on the SAP customer data platform, she can make a reservation for the charging station, and her car is automatically recognized through license plate recognition when approaching the charge point. She plugs the car into the charge point at the front of the S-Mart store at SAP's headquarters in Germany and starts charging. As the charge point is managed with SAP e-mobility, usage data of her charging session can be integrated into loyalty systems. Sarah receives a charging promotion offer upon reaching the next charging milestone. In the meantime, she walks to a coffee place nearby and receives a notification to grab a free cup of coffee. While she is catching up on a few emails, she receives a notification on her phone about an in-store promotion at S-Mart. Offering incentives to e-mobility customers when charging their cars to buy groceries in the store is a great way to strengthen customer relationships. It is also an opportunity to combine charging and loyalty member information to offer personalized benefits via SAP Emarsys. While the car is still charging, Sarah decides to take advantage of the offers and goes shopping at the S-Mart. The S-Mart is an intelligent grocery store equipped with the latest technology. Cameras and sensors work in perfect harmony with IoT to ensure product availability, correct product placement, and promotion pricing with the help of intelligent shelves, making the grocery shopping as convenient as possible. At the self-checkout, Sarah applies her 5% discount as reward for charging her car. While putting her shopping in the car, Sarah receives the push notification in her app to see that her car is charged to 80%, initiated by SAP e-mobility. As she gets home, she sees a new email showing an overview of her charging session and shopping experience. To entice Sarah to charge and shop at the S-Mart again, she also receives a voucher for a free charging session during her next visit. You just saw how energy companies are enriching the customer experience by combining e-mobility with retail and finding new ways to attract and retain customers with loyalty programs connected to electric vehicle charging, as well as opening up new sources of revenue by increasing cross-sell activities. Come and visit us to find out more. sap.com/experience centers.
So first of all, Sarah is real. She's one of the most formidable colleagues I have, and that's why we picked to show reality. I don't like those glossy pictures and marketing brochures where we show the future, because it needs to be real. But still, it is a lot of technology playing in the background to make that real. And by the way, this is as real as it can get, because many of the charging stations in the world will look like that. Why is that interesting? First of all, an oil and gas company will still be in play, because not all cars are going to be electric, we know that, anytime soon, but more and more will connect to the automotive companies to get into the car, to get that customer experience at the right time. Now, on those charging stations or gas stations, you might charge your car. You suddenly are an energy company, because actually you need to have the utilities. And try to go to San Francisco and charge your car. The problem is not that there's no chargers, but there's no space for charging anymore. And yes, we can complain about outages, but there you have outages because you queue to get electricity as the infrastructure completely breaks down in that so modern part of the world. And then you are, of course, running the gas station where you have a retail store where you sell during wait. I'm personally a guerrilla buyer. My wife doesn't like it. I go into a city or in a store, in there, buy it, credit card out. Now imagine if I'm going to be at a place for 20, 25, 30 minutes, how much goodness a retail store could do to me. And the margin of the retail store is completely different than with the gas and the charging. So guess what those companies are going to turn into? They're going to turn into the best and most interesting retail stores if they know you. If they know you, where you're driving, and motivating you with a voucher to go to this other charging station, to motivate you to visit their store while you can charge actually at the parking lot. That's just one example where the blurring lines and the industry conversions needs to start to spark us to be more creative. More creative in the topics we do today, to also that out-of-the-box thinking, digitally transform as a journey, defining with what people, with what partners, and what technology we can serve to those changes that are going to happen also here. What experience do we want to get out? And that is, of course, where we also differentiate our work, your brand, to contribute in those changes. There are more examples, and I'm happy to share them, but one more maybe to spark your interest. I just heard before that there is a growing industry here in this lovely country, it's financial industries. Think about that mobility service scenario, where car manufacturers pick a brand, maybe BMW here in South Africa, mobility providers like the rental cars or the future Ubers of the world, where suppliers were actually service that hardware called a car, and the infrastructure of energy that I just mentioned works together with big tech and high tech like Amazon, Google, and SAP. There is also financial service around it, insurance, policy, not only the question about the question about how far we can extend those boundaries. And that's why we need to look at every angle of an industry we are today, what is happening out there. And that's a dialogue we want to invite you. That's a dialogue we need to have. That's a hota where we need to sit together and think around, maybe at the fireplace tonight, if that is possible with a freezing temperature. But it is very important, and I'm coming from Germany and there's summer. But I was proud to come here. So, there is some more that we need to talk about. And we will talk about during those 2 days. I see Team Elliot sitting here. We have a nice talk about the future. But I tell you, the future is already here. And you would be extremely disappointed with a presentation without talking about AI, correct? You get it in a second. But first of all, we need to talk about for what are we doing that? Because when we want to help you to get there, when we want to work together with you and the ecosystem to get there, it is important that we think about the best practice to do something, but also the next practice. How do we power innovation? And that is, of course, looking at the tomorrow's opportunities, like convergence just being one of them, and how we can actually shape each and every industry together. By combining, for example, those industry cloud solutions who have that innovation at the cutting edge, which you can apply much simpler, no matter where you are from a product or infrastructure perspective, but also discover it, leverage it, and use it. And we're doing that in 25 industries, but we need to do it at a different pace, at a different degree and depth in certain industries. And that's why it is important that also we here as business leaders think about what helps us today, but not in hindsight as we just learned, but what helps us going forward. Now, very clearly, that needs to be thought through. When SAP talks about the intelligent enterprise, it is not about us now inventing something and helping you to get intelligent. We are in this together. But intelligence truly means to compute a lot of data bringing that in context of a business process, and yes, consuming via applications, which for me is the net of SAP. But business processes are changing faster than we know. And business processes are also part of that transformation. So you will keep asking us, rightfully so, about roadmaps. And by the way, there's a session tomorrow from a distinct colleague showing you how the Solution Explorer on a business process can help you to navigate and find out what you can already use today. But at the end of the day, what is the challenge is the transformation also into a resilient and sustainable intelligent enterprise. I know those are, again, marketing words. So let me explain. Where does resiliency come from? Resiliency comes also from managing risks. We just heard that before. We have a very negative internal term. We call them sometimes the business prevention guys. No, they're here for a reason, and they need to be part of the transformation as well, because they keep us honest about what is possible today. But we need to challenge them also how we drive that more sustainable. Not sustainable in the term we're going to talk about in a second, but sustainable of longer lasting, because we want to keep hiring young people and bring them into our corporations. And we also, as enterprises, I'm pretty sure, intelligent as we are, we want to leave that legacy when we then decide that we go to the next chapter. But let's bring it down to reality. Reality in the sense of what happens in each of that industry. This is where specifically I'm proud to lead an organization who hears, smells, detects every day what the challenges you have. Because that's what we need to do. We need to bring that back into that best practice while we show you next practice. Because only showing the future doesn't help if you can't get there. And that's why it's also important how the way will look like. Let's talk a little bit about where technology is going and can help us. And I selfishly picked the example of actually artificial intelligence. And by the way, it started way back. It started already with machine learning, with process robotic automation, with actually before it took off. And I got a question from a friend of my son who is pretty good in math. And I told him, you guys are going to make it if you're good in math, because that's going to make the difference if you are before or behind the algorithms. He said, I understand. I was a pretty young guy. But do you understand the magnitude of what is happening? And I said, yes, I do. And I gave him my analogy of what is happening in that very technology. And usually the separation about magnitudes is 1 million, 1 billion. It's abstract. And I asked him, what is 1 million minutes computing in days? It's 22. What is 1 billion minutes contributing and calculating that? It's 1,900 years. That shows you how this technology will be able, because we're talking of billions and billions of data and training and learning and capturing of information that will be applied to business processes. 22 days, 1,900 years. Though I happen to believe as well, while we're applying that as we speak to industry-specific and line of business-specific scenarios, we're still building it on the knowledge we have today. And that is why this technology is so amazing. It is also amazing that the father of another friend from mine, 82 years old, at a gathering said, I'm using ChatGPT, which is, I think, the poster child of that transformation, because then in his private world he said, when I'm going to go fishing at the weekend, I ask ChatGPT, what's the right bite for the right fish? And my colleague, same age, and I said, if that's already happening there, that acceleration is tremendous. But still, we need to understand the business processes. Because what is relevant, on my personal view, but also SAP's view, when it comes to artificial intelligence, and even on the high degree of generative artificial intelligence. Number one, it should be built into the processes. Don't bolt it on. build it in. It needs to be part of your business processes. And don't think we just make business processes, those nice chevrons, faster and we squeeze them. We're going to take things out. We're going to make sure that certain processes are not longer needed. And that comes to the second point. It needs to be relevant to you. It needs to be relevant actually in the context of those 50 years of experience that we gather together, that we discuss here in user groups about what do we apply the technology for. And actually also, it needs to be responsible and trustworthy. I believe as well that AI, and specifically generative AI, will democratize data. The people we hire today will start at a complete different degree of knowledge. What took me maybe 30 years to learn, they will start with. And that will also enable them to do things that we never thought about. Now, our job is, as we are senior leaders and experts, to also guide that into the right context. And that's why, specifically for industries, but in all line of business solutions, we need to open that dialogue. What is the responsible, trustworthy application towards your business processes? And it is possible. And that's why, again, gatherings like here, industry communities that we build, you are invited. Because yes, we're going to come up with those use cases. Yes, we're going to impact the solutions as we know them today, but we need to do that together. Now let me switch towards where I think a lot of your people are today. And there's another word that actually I found in Aspire, and that was RISE. Yes, going to talk about that as well. But before we go there, again, I want to pay a little bit tribute of my last 7 years in S/4HANA. What were the strategic ideas that we put out there when we completely re-architected, when we leveraged the latest technology, and we'll keep leveraging new technology I just talked about? Standardization, simplification, and innovation. That is what us, when we drive that strategy, we should talk about. Yes, we will talk features and functions, we'll talk together and look together at roadmaps, that's absolutely okay. But where does it help to standardize? And now link it to what I just explained, where others that will come in need to start with. We don't have the luxury of the people we hire today, those young talents who don't really want to sit in front of a screen and be driven by that, they want to be engaged. How do we evolve it towards there? And there's some homework to be done, I'm pretty sure. Now in a cloud version, in the cloud world, I just think we can capture that much faster. We can actually also consume that innovation in a better way. It's not simple, but it's very innovative also what has been already done and how to get there. Now I talked about RISE. I want to give a little bit of a sneak peek, and tomorrow Uwe going to show you how customers have done it, what they've learned, because that's what communities and those engagements also should be about. That we share what we have seen, and you learn from that, you adopt it, you make it better. Number one, in RISE, there are 3 ingredients I think that truly matter. In that concierge service that we have built to engage with you on different terms. Number one, the industry next practices, and also the ability to extend on top of a standard. And that's why I also believe, even if you're still to a large degree on my good old ECC and fighting with my enhancement packages, the time is here. Think about standardization. Now, standardization, 40% of that is change management. And that's you and the ecosystem and us. Don't underinvest in change management. Because if not, you might end up with the things how you always did them, also in the new world. And that's why keeping the core clean, being able also to do that transformation, extend where needed, ask 3 times why. Why do we really need this? Why has someone asked for it? And it's maybe not longer even in a company. And why actually do we still need that part of the process also going forward on the journey of our digital transformation? Second, analytics and business process transformation. Analytics, we just heard, looks a little bit in hindsight at the data. Now, every generative AI looks at current data. It can't look around corners. That's still where us as humans do come in, where we need to compare that data and then make the right decisions. I don't know about you, but I'm still interested what's with this Alibaba and Amazon thing, and we didn't hear about it. But I'm pretty sure if we find him, he would say, well, 50-50, everyone was right. But coming back to that transformation, what is right for you? What do you learn from others, but what is right for you for the context of your company, the businesses you are in, how those businesses are transforming, and the people that you have, and the talents that you are able to gather, either directly in your company or with your ecosystem. Those are defining that transformation. And that's why it's good to be in real time and have all data at your hand to make those changes. Last but not least, work with your ecosystem. I'm very proud to interact with many in the ecosystem because they also have a lever to know more, hundreds of thousands, not billions, but thousands of customers where they can abstract. That's their business as well, but you can learn a lot from that. And that's why, as SAP, as US clients, and as partners here in the room, we're in that together, and we need to define that outcome that we want to achieve. And that's why that RISE bundle, and I've been the pleasure to be in the room when it was defined together with Christian Klein, is about what do we need to get there. We can't keep shipping buses of experts, and for sure not also from my industry, again and again, and rethink it. We need to bring it together. And again, this is a journey. Talk with us. Tell us what works. Now, we recently thought about if this is a good way to do it, how would we now support the highest degree of standardization which is out there in the business world, which is software as a service. Software as a service, also called cloud, is not about the first S, not about software. It's about the as a service part. Many, many people can build good software. So do we, so do you. The question is how we make it as standard service that you consume it fast. We thought about that offering starting from actually a size of the market we called mid-sized companies or subsidiaries from large enterprises, where usually you don't have the luxury to have an IT department with a long-lasting knowledge. Why did we start there? Because they are as complex as large businesses. And many of the future growing companies, they don't ask the question. In many regions of the world, they don't ask the question, why standardization? They said, let's start there and do complex later. And that's why I've put together a software as a service portfolio, based of course on our core S/4HANA public cloud, to again put on top more solutions, best practices, but also methodology how to adopt it, called SAP Activate. The name has a meaning. You activate your solutions, you don't configure them, and for sure, please, you don't customize them. But on top of that, even more important, how we put those acceleration services, not just from SAP, by the way, it's part of the software and part of the as a service, but how we bring the ecosystem in there because they mostly know your industry even better than I do and my team does. That's why I'm so interested in that collaboration. But how you bring those acceleration services also to life in the context where your business is today. So that vibrant and skilled partner ecosystem also is part. And last but not least, it's the community. It's a community that actually also can be centered around communities like this here, where you openly tell us this is not working for me, but then we ask 3 times why. Why is it not working now? What we should do to get there? Because the growth and the adoption of solutions in a software as a service fashion will hit most of us still in our business life more than we think. So let's embrace it. Let's see what we can do as community. How can we immediately start to adopt it? How that results actually in efficiencies, but for sure in innovation speed. And I will help to take care that it's industry tailored enough. There's one example has been out there for very, very long. It's called two-tier ERP, where you have maybe the luxury in the company you're currently today, in the headquarters you work, a lot of knowledge is there and people are there and resources are there who can manage. But then maybe you have that subsidiary. And I was sponsoring a larger project here in South Africa where we had an endless debate for this company. I'm not going to mention the name, but it's also a sponsor of this conference. Now you guess. Which was running an ERP and S4 on their premises. Still can be on a server. Maybe it's cloud enough for them. But suddenly they wanted to roll out the standard across Africa. And someone on a napkin said, oh, no problem, 16 countries, localization, we just get that done. And I lost, I think, half of my hair with that project. But the topic is still valid, that if you can get to a degree of standardization and then see the passion that the people have, if they can close their books in real time, get all the data that how their business is running, and then make the right decisions, that this is growing. And even the parent company then rethought about, well, maybe let's apply some of those best practices also to the mothership, because we don't want to do it exactly how the business thinks it should be done today. And that's also where we as IT professionals here in the room, in our organization, should also be leading a little bit of that charge, not only looking about what is good in the next release, but what is possible with that standardization. So that said, there's also a topic I want to talk about when we think and look above the cubicle line. And we just recently launched our business networks for industries. And why this is important, and we started with industrial manufacturing, consumer products, life science, and high tech, is that you definitely are connected with the world. You are dependent on the world. And we all should have learned that when this little or large ship was stuck in the canal. When we realized that supply chains need to be driven differently, not by demand, how many people click on your homepage, but actually by the question is, are you able to fulfill? So the scarcity of resources, human, products, support, derives the supply chains in the future. So from a demand-driven view to it, to actually also, how can I even be able to fulfill it? And that's why we looked in those industries, and we looked a little bit beyond just classical connection. We looked into where are those hero companies that are already working on that connectivity, also from a business process perspective. And yes, obviously you start with procurement, you look then into the supply chain and logistics, and you go all the way down to your classical areas. But there's one more. And there's an industry, as German, a little bit proud of it, it's the automotive industry, who actually has spearheaded in very interesting times when they realized my supply chain is not demand-driven, but constraint-driven, that I need to bring a lot of the players together on a technology and a platform so we can exchange data. BMW took 12,000 of their suppliers on one platform called Catena X, but the X is standing for that ecosystem where a large player was able that we can connect, that we understand the semantics of data does matter, that apples and oranges in a network don't help, that I need to bring that on one level. And that basic idea that we did and now extended it to manufacturing is something that we will talk more and more about that. By the way, needs a networked ERP. Needs an ERP that is in the possibility and also in charge of being connected to those networks and pre-connected depending on your business processes. Now, why do those data ecosystems, how I call them, truly matter? They do matter because not only everyone heard the term about the oil of the future is data. Well, without good data, not good business process. Without good business process, not the ability to contribute and participate in everything that is happening out there. So don't look at business processes and business networks just to, again, optimize and streamline. Look at them also as a potential how you can interact, because you're going to find yourself in one of those data ecosystems that are out there. And by sharing data out of application, sharing data from your operations, sharing that expertise also in an industry sense, that's exactly where we see the future going. And that pays also in an obligation we all have together. An obligation for our company and our stakeholders and our employees to be relevant in the future, but also our impact out there. Now, it might be a long leap when we now talk about sustainability, but let me nevertheless do so. I understand you are in a country, and I lived 5 years in South America. I know what shutdown of electricity, which is, next to many other, a very important good for our wealth and life, does mean. But we heard that just before. Let's not complain, but also look into. We have an obligation, if we're part of running 75% of the world, or 74, depending on the day and the hour, the worldwide GDP, I just corrected the number, so my marketing friends still keep me honest. But if we look into this, we also can look at the why we're doing that. Where are the interrelationships that we come from? And that not only needs to be an emotional topic, it is. We see that every day. But it needs to be also brought into a business sense. I'm not running around in Birkenstock shoes. While I like them, it's a good customer of us, but I'm not looking at the sustainability angle for only the good. Yes, CO2, carbon emissions, gonna be something in the future you're gonna deal with. It's gonna be a currency. And yes, we're implementing that as a second ledger, the carbon ledger, into finance, because we're able to compute every transaction and then the impact. And the data networks I just talked about, look all the suppliers, tier 2, tier 3, level 3, about what their contribution is. And guess what? You are one of those suppliers, maybe. And they're gonna ask you for that data, for the contribution, because that change, that currency, gonna have an impact. And that's why we're doing that, by the way, in the cloud solution first, because we need to get it in your hands. Just one example. There are many other areas, and if I'm invited again, maybe, that's definitely going to be a larger part of the organization, because it is business relevant. And I want you to invite again to discuss with us where to start with, how to put that actually in context of your business. And I promise that for sustainable enterprises, I want to look at the industry portfolio as well, together with you, where we have and where we can have the maximum impact. Now, to wrap it up, as I'm German, I'm starting in time, I'm looking at the clock, I want to end in time, but no, I'm between you and your lunch, I get that. And some already needed their bio break. I need it as soon as well. But let me wrap it up with also an invitation. And the first invitation is, and you saw that before, is that we want to show how this could look like. We want to demonstrate, prove, discover together with you as well how that future-ready mindset that I talked about, which is our charter together with you, can be felt. Those global experience centers, and you saw one of them in Waldorf because that shop is real, we build it up there to show people how business processes change and how that can be interconnected. And that's what we are now building up around the world. And also here, they are available also in a hybrid fashion, where we can send people, invite others to look hybrid, while we need to start to work to get people back into the office. If you got that right, tell me, I'm challenged in my business as well. But at the end of the day, to showing something, to bring that out, to really show real product, and even if it's in the digital avatar, I invite you to visit those centers because they're important. They show how the world really works together and how those topics that I just explained actually brings you to that future-ready level that we need to talk about. Now, those industry scenarios that my team owns and drives, looking above the cubicle line of all the offering, from SAP and the ecosystem, the so-called white spaces, they of course need to be implemented and seen. And many of our partners do that as well, because we have no time to lose. with no time to lose, that you reach out to us and we discuss about what does future ready mean for you. With no time to lose, and this conference, I'm pretty sure, will contribute a bit to it, to analyze very properly where you are, what your challenges are, how to get there. So please join us there. And I want to leave you with one thought. It's of course that you as customers and the ecosystem are pivotal, key to work together with us to make this a reality. Because I'm excited when I talk to you as customers and the partners. I'm excited when I talk to the young people that currently decide to go to an enterprise world and talk with IT, which have thousands of other possibilities. So let's talk about that industry convergence. Let's talk about the abilities of that technology, which is fueled by billions of data and growing exponentially, and we all personally use it. Let's share and let us help to navigate. Let us help you to bring that forward. And if you want, you can learn more here for industries. We will share everything that we learn because it's the community that matters. And if you want more, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I'll keep you updated, not only on stage. Thank you very much and have a great SAPHILA.